Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to today's HKU program deep dive program. So today's session is on social sciences. My name is Nicole, a HKU student recruitment counselor, and I'll be moderating the session today. So I'd like to quickly walk you through today's rundown. So there will be two presentations today, and after each presentation, we'll have a short Q&A for you to ask any questions you have for the program. You can talk to the speaker directly to ask any questions that you have. You can either speak up or you can type your questions in the chat. And if you have further questions on a general application, you're welcome to stay behind after the two presentations. You can talk to me. You can ask me, questions on making HKU application or your questions on other programs as well. So before we start, I'd like to show you a message from our Vice President and Vice Chancellor, Professor Ian Holliday.
Hello, I'm Ian Holliday. I'm happy to welcome you to Hong Kong U. We're already looking ahead to the first semester of next academic year and what we're going to be doing for teaching and learning when you join us. We know that this summer we can return to face-to-face teaching on campus, and that will be something of a trial run for the main semester, semester 1, from September through to December. We're confident then that we can also do a lot of face-to-face teaching on campus. Of course, there'll be some hybrid teaching. Some of our teaching will stay online because our students and our teachers have been very happy with some of the online teaching that they've had from us in the last few months. So we'll keep those best bits, but we will also bring you all on campus. There will be face-to-face teaching, and you will get a great educational experience here at Hong Kong U. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in September, to welcoming you to the campus, and to joining you as we reinvent our campus in the new semester. Hello.
Okay, so now may I invite Dr. Jeff Saunders, who is Associate Professor in the Department of Psychology, Faculty of Social Sciences, to deliver the presentation. So Dr. Saunders, please.
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Dr. Saunders. I'll talk to you a little bit today. So I'm going to go over the psychology, the main degree program, talk a little about the structure and what the rationale behind it is. You're welcome if you, we're going to save time for questions later, so you can ask questions later, but if you think of something, you're welcome to type in the chat box too. That's fine. This is for your benefit. Let's see. So why study psychology? Let's see. All right, so there's actually psychology tends to be a fairly popular major at our university and a lot of universities. I think in part just because it's interesting. And there's nothing wrong with that, choosing a major just because you find it interesting. A lot of people find it so. How do our minds work? How do we learn and develop? What can go wrong and why? These are interesting questions. And I think that's part of what sometimes appeals to people and why they like the idea of majoring in psychology. To be interesting to know more about how our minds work, how that determines our social interactions. It's an interesting stuff. And I think in general, if people are thinking about majors, finding something you're interested in is pretty important. It's good to think about career prospects, but if you study something you really like and think is interesting, it's probably going to help you do well in general along the way. Another thing about psychology is it's a science. And this is part of what you get too, is that you're learning about how people take a scientific approach to studying things, which can be quite hard, actually. So social science research, so there's many departments in social science, and you've probably heard from other ones, but I think the scientific approach and research methods is a pretty important part too. And you'll gain useful things from that. And then, of course, a lot of people choose psychology because they have in mind they want to go on some career path that requires psychology. So if you wanted to go into clinical psychology and be a professional or in educational psychology, those do require an undergrad degree to go on, right? So that's why. What do you do with the psychology major? So that's something people might worry about or your questions about. In fact, a lot of things. And let's see, I guess it's, some people do go on and maybe if you're going to eventually be a practicing clinical psychologist, well, you probably started with a psychology major. But there's a lot of other things people do. And just to give a sample, CEDARS is a group on campus. They handle a lot of things for helping students in general, including like career advice, interviews, and helping with resumes, writing. So this group, it's a great support at Hong Kong U. And one of the things they do is sometimes do surveys of graduates. So this one's a little older, but I'm sure the recent ones will be similar. What are people doing just 2 years later? A lot were doing further studies in education, psychology, social work. A lot of people went to industry, going to things like marketing, account manager, human resources is a big area, communications. A lot of graduates go in education in different ways, so teachers, research assistants, and then community social services. So some job titles for the recent grads: youth service officer, mental health education officer. So there's a wide range of careers people go on to do, starting with psychology. And it's good background for a variety of things. I'm not seeing any comments or questions yet, but again, we're going to allocate some time later for questions, so don't feel like you have to now. All right, so what about our program? So we've got some aims. So these are kind of the high-level goals of the program, and then I'll mention how the actual requirements, what you would have to do, relate to it. So we want everybody to have some foundational knowledge of psychology. If you're a psychology major, need a degree, a Bachelor of Social Science in Psychology, we expect everyone to come away with the basic knowledge you'd expect. So that's part of it. Skills and research methods is another big thing. And that's actually quite valuable. In some ways, students maybe don't find this as the fun parts, but it really can help because if you know how to deal with data, especially in current business, it's pretty important. The same kind of things you might do to analyze a survey in some ways might be things you might do in some business setting as well. Everybody in university wants you to develop your critical thinking and analytic skills. This maybe sounds a little abstract, but I think it really is part of the college experience. People do come away, I think, just a little more sophisticated in their thinking and their skills, and that's, of course, one of our aims. And to have some experience tackling problems and applying knowledge. So these are kind of the general aims, what we want to do. All right, so here's a major requirements, kind of a summary. So you'd all take an introductory course if you major in psychology, statistics and research methods. We've got a 2-course sequence of that. And then we have streams, a cognitive biological or social and developmental. So 2 courses from that set and 3 from the other. Some other advanced electives, so other psych ones if you're choosing. Then an advanced lab course and optionally a thesis or independent project. So this is kind of going in roughly sequence of you might be doing, starting introductory, getting some background, being more specialized, and doing a seminar type course or thesis. And then there's also the Faculty of Social Science requirements, which can also be related to psychology. So you have to take a certain amount of their internship and global citizenship requirements. All right, so how do these relate to the aims? Well, some of this is about research methods. So we have the courses about research methods. So that's statistics, data analysis, and also designing studies, how you report data. A lot of things that are actually useful in a variety of research settings later potentially, but also setting you up to where when you take the advanced courses or if you do a thesis or a project, you've got some background, and those are also great ways to get skills. People do a thesis, you're very involved with it, it's your personal project, and you have to do all the collecting and analyzing. It's good experience. So that's kind of touching on the research methods part. But the course requirements are making sure you've got a broad knowledge across the domain. So the introductory course and the stream requirements. To give you an idea of these, so you need to take 2 or 3 of these, so cognitive, biological, or perception, and then 3 of these 4, social, personality, developmental, and psychopathology. So you can see from these course listings, psychology, it's a pretty broad area. You know, biological is a lot about how your brain is like supporting our thinking in our minds, and cognitive, treating our minds as like a computational machine and understanding how it works. And then versus personality, about how individual people differ and how you might measure it, or psychopathology, what could go wrong with the way. So psychology, it's very broad, and you'd be expected to take some courses that sample at least all these areas. And then once you've got some of that background, you take some further electives and then your capstones. And these are opportunity for specialization to continue. If you really like social psychology, you could take advanced social and do a project in that. If you really like the biological, you can take some more neuroscience. So at least one elective. We've got some other courses like an intro to counseling, current issues in developmental, human neuropsychology, and some other ones. These ones rotate a little bit depending on who is teaching what, but we'll try and offer a few of these more specialized, or you could take one of the other core ones if you really want to take all 4 of the social ones. And then some advanced lab course. So these, everyone else take at least one, and we've got 4 areas, social, developmental, cognitive, or perception. And these would be seminar courses with a small group where you do discussions and read primary literature. A lot of people take advantage. This is optional, but a lot of people do a thesis or independent study. And as I said, that's a great background to get to, because you really get deeper into a topic and have experience doing a project. And in particular, if you want to go to graduate studies, it's proving by doing a thesis that you kind of are able to do an independent project and work with a degree of independence. We have everybody who meets a certain GPA is entitled to do a thesis with a full-time faculty member like myself. So that's everyone. And if you don't meet that qualification, you could do an independent study, and that would be supervised by one of our full-time demonstrators or postdocs. So there are a lot of opportunities, and a lot of students take us up in these. So if it sounds appealing to you, some thesis or independent project, you will have opportunity to do that. We guarantee it for all students that do a certain level, and guarantee it for everyone, just not necessarily everyone with a faculty advisor. Then there's also, we want people to have some experience applying, and this can come up a variety of ways. So the thesis or independent project is kind of application, but also a number of labs, I didn't include this in the PowerPoint, offer internships. So we have an internship course, and this is an internal one. So if you're really interested in the kind of research going on in one of the labs here, one of our labs does eye tracking research, right? If you think that's really cool, Janet's lab will often get undergrad volunteers. So you can just volunteer your time a little bit, or you can take it as a formal course. So the research internship course, you take as a course, you join the lab meetings, you write a paper at the end, and you kind of work in the lab and help out. And so that's good experience, really learning a little deeper about a topic and how research works. There's also a great program developed by the Faculty of Social Science for internships. So I'm not going to say too much about these, because you may have already heard about this in other sessions, but everyone's required to do these internship and global citizenship requirements. Some of the partners, it's actually a really good system of partners. This system's been going on for a number of years, and some of them are related to psychology. So I remember when I was advisor for some interns, at one point, there was a group working with autistic adults that had some volunteers help with that. I remember another student did one with a police unit that was a psychologist working for a police department. So when it comes time to choosing your internship, there's a bunch of opportunities to get out there in the world and work in an environment that's many of them related to psychology. Not all of them. Some people use these to do other kind of opportunities. But there are definitely some that are related to careers in psychology. So that's another opportunity. And also the global citizenship, a lot of students satisfy this by going on exchange. We basically, a huge proportion of our students do go on exchange. So you're also, if you do our degree here, getting more than just our teaching. Most are also getting a semester somewhere else and getting exposed to different program, different style, different courses. Right? So that's kind of an overview of the program, what you'd be expected to do. I've left off some other electives you have in the Common Core and things, but these are kind of the core things related to psychology. And I'll also say these were all designed to meet the requirements for membership of the Hong Kong Psychological Society. That's a professional organization. Membership would be a plus or possibly even a requirement for some kind of jobs. So we did design this program to make sure that if you fulfill these requirements, you will be eligible for membership of that later, and would meet the requirements if you wanted to go into and apply to grad school in clinical or educational. Also, our program will have given you enough requirements to where you could go onto those. So that's the overview of those. I'm not going to spend time on it, but we also have minors if you're interested in minor, human resources, and we have a cognitive science major. If you kind of like psychology, but maybe more on the computational side, computer science, philosophy, then we have another related major that's you might be interested in. You can get more information on that. So our webpage has a bunch of details if you want to get more. And also for career opportunities, you can look at CEDARS has a webpage, or you can contact someone there. And you're also welcome to contact someone like me. I'm director of the program. So if you want to send me email some questions, I'm open to that. But I'm also open to answering questions at the pause in this program. And so that's all I have to say for this. So thanks for your attention. And I'm totally happy to stay and discuss things if anyone has things they want to talk about.
So thank you, Dr. Saunders, for your sharing. So now I think we're still waiting for the current student to come in, right? So maybe now we'll take in some questions for the psychology major. Students, if you have any question, you can type in the chat box. It can be on psychology or on psychology specifically, or on the Bachelor of Social Sciences program. So actually, Dr. Saunders, I personally have one because
Sure.
Oh, wait. So I think we've got one question now.
No, that was just me telling people I was open to questions. So go ahead.
No,
What's your question?
there's one. So
Oh,
does
okay.
psychology offer any faculty level exchange programs?
Faculty level exchange. I'm not sure what faculty level exchange means specifically, but we have all sorts of partners. I think the university exchange is a big deal here, and they have a whole exchange office. So I actually not sure the exact processing, but there are a lot of potential partners. People go to US, Europe. It's a huge list of schools. So I think if you went to this site, you'd see there'd be information on the potential ones. So I don't know by faculty level, but a lot of students do. And we're fairly systematic. Like people take classes, you can take psychology classes wherever, and usually you'll get accepted for some credit. If it's close to one of our classes, you might get credit for one of ours, so you won't have to take one of the requirements. Or maybe you take something that just counts as elective because it's not something we have. So a lot of students do it. There are lots of respected places, and there's systems in place to help match people. And let's see, match people, and generally you would be able to get some credit. I have a question, let's see.
Maybe I can take the question on, applying to Hong Kong U as a associate
Right.
program.
But I saw one, if I can answer this first. Oh yeah, go ahead and do that one first. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so actually we do. We every year we accept applications. Students applying as a associate degree holder, and you got a PRC passport. Yes, you can apply as a non-local student, like with a associate degree qualification. You can apply, and you should expect that you will start from HKU in year 1. Yeah, it should start.
Okay.
So
So I got a couple of questions. Let me respond. Let's see. Okay. So one about what makes us stand out. Well, to be honest, a lot of psychology programs other places will be similar. So I like our program, but it is pretty similar to what you get in a lot of places elsewhere. So the question about what makes stand out, I think some positive features for us are, one is it's mostly taught by faculty members. So a lot of places, I know in the US where I'm from, there's often a lot of courses taught by just assistants, because there's just a lot of students and the faculty are a little more geared to research. So here we are geared toward research. Everybody does publishes and such, but the courses are taught by professors. The other thing I think is good is that some places doing a thesis independent project is only kind of for some select students, whereas we have a lot of students do it, and I think it's a valuable part of the experience. And I also think it's not us specifically, but I think the faculty has done a good job with the combination of exchange and the internships. I think add something that our university and faculty have done a good job of that. So that was kind of answering the question about what makes us stand out. In some ways, you go to a lot of other respected universities, it'll be similar, but I think we have some good things going for it. Let's see. Another question I saw, can you take a double major with a Bachelor of Arts? Okay, double majoring, this is what, we also serve as academic advisors to students, and I often get questions about that. The thing about a double major is it cuts down your flexibility. So people can do it, but your degree plan for one major has a bunch of freedom to where you can take things, and maybe as you go along, you'll find this interesting and pursue other things. If you double major, you're going to be much more locked in because some of your electives in one is going to be needed for the other one. So that's the question about double majoring. Lots of students do different kinds of double majors. I've seen students do it, but what it means is your schedule is going to be pretty tight. Your class will mostly just be your 2 majors because there's just not a lot of room for extra, and you're going to have to be careful how you plan it. So that's why I'd say if someone wants to double major, you're going to have to think carefully, for example, on exchange, making sure you get credit for some of those and planning your steps carefully. But it's certainly doable. It's really doable. Another question, someone doing IB, how much overlap? IB is great background. Actually, my children did IB. They didn't do IB psychology. And I know some of the secondary school teachers, I've talked to them who do IB. So they do great stuff. If you took that, you'll probably be familiar with a lot of the content from the intro one. And I don't know, you might be able to get advanced standing for that. You'll also probably have a head start on the research methods, because I understand that the IB does a fair amount of stats and you have to do some data analysis. So I don't know if it has that much overlap, because once the intro go, then it becomes more specialized and so on. So I think coming from IB and psychology, you'd find you have a good head start. Right? AP I don't know as much about, but probably similar. It kind of depends. I know the IB includes things, I think they all like actually do studies and collect data, so you get a lot of experience, which I don't think is part of the AP. So I don't have the direct knowledge, but you could follow up. I expect for a lot of IB, I think you can do advanced standing, meaning you could, instead of taking intro, you could potentially have your IB count and take something else. Let's see, any book recommendations? I don't know about, if you're considering studying soon, I'm not sure of any particular recommendations for that. Because when you get here, you'll have plenty of reading and things. I guess you could look at, there's actually these days lots of online resources that are essentially like online textbooks. So you could take a look at those and kind of see what you'll be getting. So usually the first year, if you're going to major in psychology, you take our intro psychology and then the intro stats and possibly other things, but definitely we tell our students always do that. So I would say that for the question about book recommendations, you'll be taking those first, so you could kind of get ready for those a little bit. Or if stats sounds intimidating, you could get a little ahead and learn all of that. It's an important part of learning about psychology as a science, is knowing stats, and some people are intimidated. So, but they don't have to be, and most people get over it. So I guess if you're thinking about that, you could just kind of look for general resources to kind of get started if you're enthused. Maybe look at stats a little. So if you're not feeling comfortable with that, I'm not sure I have other recommendations. You'll get here and do plenty of reading. So I hope that answered that question. Let me look at what the other ones are. Will you have to know a lot about the basics? I don't think so. So that's kind of opposite. One person said, how much will overlap with IB? And this one is, what if I haven't had psychology? I think either is fine. The intro course does not assume that you know a lot, nor does the stats one. I mean, the stats course assumes that you're kind of have some basic high school level math, but you're not expected to know a lot. The very first course is a broad survey because people come on a different background. So if you've already got AP or IB, you could look at seeing if you can get credit for that or advanced standing. If you're not, I wouldn't worry about it. If you're interested in, you come apply yourself, you'll be fine. Because the whole structure, like I showed it to you, kind of ramps up from intro, then some core class and topics, then more specialized. If you are interested and keep up with it, you'll be fine. And the question about AP, again, I don't know. I expect that it probably does something, but I'm not the one to ask. The getting credit like that happens at a faculty level, so I don't directly know, but I think there's somewhere else could confirm, but I think you probably would be able to get credit at least for the intro. Let's see.
All right, so that question is for me.
Yes.
Can associate degree? Hi, Shun. Okay, let me turn on video. So you want to apply for BBA who are majoring in applied social. Sorry, let me just read the question again. Oh, okay. So you're now doing an associate degree in business administration, and you want to apply for social sciences. I think it's fine because I think social sciences this program it's not very subject specific. I would say students coming from any background can apply if like you think you have interest for the program for the majors. For example, you have interest for psychology or politics or sociology. If you see fit, then of course you can apply. And actually, the deadline, it's not an extended deadline, it's the deadline for late applicants. So we're still taking in applications, but those applications will be considered as like late applicants. You can still apply. We're still accepting it until July the 15th. Okay, I hope that's answered your question. All right, Dr. Sanders says there's one relevant to your major. I think you have to unmute yourself first.
Hi, yeah, so the question was about whether there's much overlap. I don't think there'd be much overlap. I think they'd be pretty different. I don't know that much about speech pathology, but I think it is very speech specific. We have courses like on psychopathology, but that would be things like depression or manic depression or schizophrenia, those kind of things, which are very different than speech pathology is its own area. I guess the overlap might be some people doing research in language related things. So we do have some research doing that, but in terms of coursework, I think they'd be quite different.
Dr. Sanders, I think there's one on like how, sorry. Do you think taking neuroscience as a minor is a good idea for doing psychology as a major?
Oh, I see. I think, sure. Well, it really depends if you're interested. So like what I said before about double majors is true for minors as well. A minor is kind of shows you got a secondary specialty, right? That's kind of a good thing because you've taken some things, you've kind of got a official thing showing, oh, I've got this other specialty. The downside is that's using up some free electives, right? So if you think neuroscience sounds really interesting, that's when you do your extra time, go for it. I guess it would also depend what you wanted to go into. If you wanted to do research in psychology, I think neuroscience would be great. Take some, whether you do a minor or take the electives, because it's an increasing part of research in psychology. It just, the brain side and psychology side, I think are kind of going hand in hand much more than they did, 30, 40 years ago. So if you're kind of interested in that direction, more research oriented, then definitely, or if you just find it interesting. We also have a neuroscience major. I'm not going to promote that, but if you're really interested in neuroscience, we actually have a major for that now. But certainly, it depends what you're interested in. I think a minor in neuroscience would be great, or taking some neuroscience things, but some people might want to use those extra credits to do more in social or take like a counseling class or something like that. So it really depends on your interest, but it certainly would go together okay because neuroscience and psychology are connected. All right, would you be able to do psychology in a master's if you only do a minor? It depends what kind of master's you mean. If you want to do a master's, a professional program, like you want to do a master's in clinical and going into a doctorate in clinical, you would want to do a major, right? If you're doing like a research master's, then it might not matter as much. So for our clinical and educational professional programs, they're expecting the psychology background, right? So a major. If you're applying to say do research with one of us as a graduate student, a research grad student, then we take people with other majors sometimes. Right? I myself was a math major, and then I went and got my PhD in cognitive science. So, but that was because I had a little psychology. The person I was interested in working with did very computational things, so that worked out. So if you're talking about a research level, people can have a variety of backgrounds. So a minor might be fine. If you want to be a practicing clinical psychologist, you don't want to have a psychology major. If you only had a minor, you'd probably have to do some maybe taught masters of conversion to get into the clinical. So that's in response to that question, would you be able to do a master if you have a minor? If you're looking for professional, you should do a bachelor's psychology major. If you're thinking about other kinds of masters, then if you took appropriate coursework, that would be fine. There's certainly things you can do practice. Let's see. I should know this better. I see that Tom is on the call here, one of my colleagues. Do you have an answer to that, Tom?
That's not what I'm here to discuss, Jeff.
I know, but I'm a little embarrassed. It's like, I'm not actually quite sure what exactly you can practice, what you can't with master's and PhD.
In Hong Kong, technically you don't actually need anything. But they're moving towards accreditation, and a master's is enough for that. But I always urge young people to think about, don't think about what is enough to practice in clinical psychology. Think about how you can be the best clinical psychologist you can be, because you want to deliver the best kind of service. And that usually means you have to do more than the minimum required for accreditation.
Great. Thanks, Tom. You'll be hearing from him later about the Bachelor Arts and Science program. But any other questions for me?
Yeah, so everyone, is there any questions for Dr. Saunders on psychology? Well, I think if you don't have any now, but if you you may if you come up with any like after the session, then let me just post the link here so you can. So I'm sharing
All right.
here. So if you have any questions, you can just fill in the form, fill in the information in there, and we will reply to your question, with advice from Dr. Saunders, maybe.
Right. And I'm staying on the call. If someone thinks of something later, you can always send me a message or ask me.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, great. All right. Thank you. All right, so I think now Dr. Barry is ready to give his talk on Bachelor of Arts and Sciences. So maybe I'll now pass the time to you for your presentation.
Sure. Let me
Thank you.
share my screen. Can everybody see that? Is that okay?
Yes, I can see. I can see.
Great. Okay. So as I've already been introduced by Jeff, I'm Tom, and I'm the director of the Bachelor of Arts and Sciences. And in my spare time, I'm also a psychologist, and I work in the domain of clinical psychology and mental health and all of that kind of stuff. And so the first thing I'm just going to discuss to you, as I guess most of you don't really know what it is, a BASc is. In essence, the BASc gives students the freedom to create a degree that really suits their passions. And our students they have the most freedom of any students at HKU. Essentially, when they start their degree, they get this huge list of electives, and they can pick any courses that they like from science, social science, and arts faculties. And there are some limitations to that, but essentially that's what it is. They can construct their own degree based on what they're most passionate about, and that's all very nice. But why? Why do we want to give students that kind of freedom? So I guess so I've had a haircut, but this Bitmoji used to look like me. The problems that we face as a society today are really, really complex. And of course, although it's very, very unpleasant, I am given a very nice example by the current pandemic for just how complex some of the problems that we face are. And so if you think about how we are approaching this current virus, of course, the most predominant fields are virology and epidemiology, and medical fields and the development of vaccines and things like that. And that's obviously very important, but there are also insights that we need to take from various other fields as well if we're to really deal with this problem effectively. And so if you think about it, we need to access information from geography to understand the movement of people. So we know that the virus is very infectious, but how do people move around in society? How do they live? How does this relate to the infectiousness of the disease? How does this affect our economy? What is and this is a really big thing in the UK. So I'm originally from the UK. And in the UK, they're talking a lot about the psychology of all of this, because I don't know if you know anything about British people, but we really don't like being told what to do. And so when it comes to the government trying to influence people's behavior, they have to have a really strong understanding of how to influence people and how to get people to do basic things like wash their hands and stay away from others and keep social distancing and things like that. And so in the UK's expert panels, there are psychologists who offer their insights in how to do this. And we have to understand, more complex problems about how have we dealt with diseases in the past and how this has affected society and what the long-term effects are, what lessons can we learn from that. Some other insights from sociology about how we interact with one another as a group, and of course also social work in dealing with some of the social consequences of all of this. And of course we need to get insights also from politics and journalism in trying to develop effective strategies for effective policies for dealing with the disease, but also communicating that to the public in a convincing way. And so if we are to really solve these kinds of complex problems, and you can use a similar kind of approach to basically any important social problem. So previously, because of my background, the example that I would give here is with depression. And you need a similarly complex approach if we're to really solve depression in society. And so what the BASc is trying to say is that it's not enough for us anymore to study discrete subject areas. We need to, not only do we all need to work together between different fields, but we also need people like yourselves to study these diverse fields to come up with new ways to solve society's problems. And so we have two main focuses within our program, and they are an interdisciplinarity, as I've already described, but also with impact. So we are also quite different in terms of other HKU degrees in the way that we put a lot of focus on not only how students can learn new things, but also how they can apply that knowledge to help society. And so we have some courses within our degree that help students really apply their knowledge to the betterment of society. And these two things are combined in a way that's really personalized. So it's really up to each student how they approach interdisciplinarity, what it means to them, and also how they choose to apply it in society. And so every student on our degree program has a very unique degree. We don't have any student that studies the exact same degree. They've all chosen very different courses. And all of this is couched within a supportive framework in terms of the mentorship that is offered by myself and my colleagues, and also the BASc family, which I'll talk more about in a moment. And so what is my job in all of this? Really, I'm there, and I think, although I never gave myself the job, so I don't know, but I think the reason why I was given the job is my background in psychology, because really my job is to act as a personal mentor for all of you. And so in the first meetings that I have with students, the questions that I ask them are what is it that you want to do? Why have you come to HKU? And you know, besides just getting a degree, what are you passionate about? And some students do have a very specific answer to that, and some of our students don't. And so for those students, we work together to find out what it is they're passionate about and most interested in. And so we try and construct a goal for students within their degree. And then we ask them, how do you want to get there? How can we create a degree together that allows you to get to your goal, either in terms of your degree goal, or maybe your later career goals or life goals? And so there is really intensive mentorship within our degree, and we have a really nice cohort of students and a nice supportive environment for students. And we also have a team of student advisors, and also, of course, so our program is really new. But for students that start next year and the years after, there'll also be BASc students to support you as well. Our current students, they were really just, you know, mavericks and didn't have anybody who'd set a precedent for them. But next year and the years after, you guys will be able to be supported by these students. So you won't have to do things for the first time. These students have already learnt those lessons for you. And you're also supported by the broader BASc family as well. So our program is one of 6 programs where there are similarly interdisciplinary approaches, but the other programs differ from ours in the sense that they are much more specific. So for example, there is applied AI, Design Plus, FinTech and Global Health and Development. Social Data Science is an advanced course not available to undergraduates starting their degrees. But these courses dictate to students that they study, for example, applied AI or aspects of design and things like that, whereas students on our program can just create their own degree. And we do have some overlap. So for example, we have a student on our course on our degree at the moment who is really interested in harnessing AI to reduce animal cruelty in the food chain. So that's her really specific interest that she came with. And so she's doing a degree with aspects of AI, but she's also interested in studying aspects of biology and understanding more about animals. And she's also interested in understanding things from literature and journalism about how she can communicate the importance of all of this to society, and also some bits of politics and public policy as well. So she can not only create a thing that's important, but also influence broader policy. And so you'll get support from students from across all of the programs, but there's also support specific to your degree that you'll get from myself and other students on our program. And you'll meet the students on the other programs through some of what's called the core courses that you'll do. And there's also some other events that we host between all of the students. As from next year, another feature of the BASCs that is unique to them is you'll have a common room. So this common room is accessible by students from all of the 6 programs. And so you'll be able to just go in there and hang out and chat to one another. You don't have to work, it's not a library. You can work if you want to, but it's just a space for our students to get to know one another and support one another in a comfortable and informal environment where you're not surrounded by people like me, who I guess can be frightening. I don't know. And so what does our degree look like? So as I said, students do have the freedom to basically choose anything from art, science, and social sciences faculties, but we do have some limitations, as I said. That limitation in particular is that we have these 2 pathways. Essentially, all of the courses available in the arts, science, and social sciences faculties are split up into these 2 pathways. And the reason these exist is that what we don't want is students to come into our degree and then just study science, or just study social science, or just study arts subjects. Because if they're going to do that, they might as well just do a bachelor's in social science or whatever. And so we say to them, you have to study courses in equal number from both of these 2 pathways. So they study equal number of more harder physical sciences, and some of the, it's a terrible term, but the softer sort of arts and cultural areas as well. Just so that we can ensure that students are truly being interdisciplinary. And then we have some other courses which are more about how students can apply that knowledge out in the world. And the first of those is the qualitative and quantitative research methods course. So this is a course students do in the beginning of their degree about about inquiry. How do we conduct research to gain new knowledge? Also, I'll tell you more about this in a moment, but we also have tailor-made internships available to students. And a capstone project where at the end of their degree, students will put all of their knowledge together in a project that allows them to apply their knowledge and create something new, either new knowledge or a new product or something like that. As in the other talks you'll have heard over the past day or days, students are also able to take a second major or another minor or as many electives as they're able to with the credits they have, just as students in HKU can. So some of our students will do our major in interdisciplinary studies, and then they might take a second major so that they've still got the door open to doing a professional postgraduate degree. So like psychology, if they might want to be a clinical psychologist. We do have students who do that. But I can talk to you more about that later. We also have a BASc core course, a BASc core course, which you do with the other students from the BASc. This is a similar course, but is more focused on the philosophy, and it's co-taught between a philosopher, a psychologist, and how does he refer to himself? He does like research into space and satellites. I can't think of the word for that, but anyway, it gets all of these 3 people together and talks about how each of them engages with research and inquiry and acquiring new knowledge. So it's a really interesting and different course that is really novel in the context of HKU, because you're getting really different insights from very, very different people. Students can also take common core courses, which I guess you've heard of, which is just another bank of sort of interdisciplinary elective courses that students at HKU can take. And some of the BASc core courses. So we're really keen for students to have strong programming skills because that is the future. And so students will take a programming course in their second year. And they'll also take a course in sustainable leadership, which I'll talk more about in a moment. And also, if students want to, they can take a language enhancement course. So this is a picture from what was called Leadership Beyond Borders, but is now called Sustainable Leadership, but it's essentially the same course. This is a picture from last year. So this is basically as many students as you can expect will be in your whole BASc family in your year. So there's usually about 100 students in the whole family across all of the 5 or 6 programs. And on the first weekend of the first semester, we hold the first event. And so students all get together and all get to know one another. And as far as I know, other courses at HKU don't do that, where it's basically a weekend of breaking the ice. So you all get to know one another. And of course, we do activities and things like that. So you are gaining something beyond just, social relationships, but you also get to form these bonds really early on, so that you can support one another and also just get used to university life from the outset. And so in this course in sustainable leadership, you'll be exposed to, first of all, just talks from really important people across various different sectors, from Tencent, Alibaba, that kind of thing, but also NGOs, charities, where people are working much more on the ground, doing sort of more socially sustainable work. And in the course so we're redesigning it at the moment. So this is new information. But essentially what will happen when you guys start, if you are looking to apply next year or the year after, is that students will get together in groups and they will work with our sustainability department to define some problems that we have here on campus, which are basically problems that we have in society in general. And then together design a product that will help us solve that problem. And through the course, you'll actually get real money, so you can actually develop the product if you'd like. And there's several series of competitions, kind of like a Shark Tank or Dragon's Den or whatever it's called, where you're from, where the best ideas are selected and they move through to another stage, and then students can all join new groups, and eventually your whole year will come together to have produced something novel and that really can impact society. And we'll work with business to try and translate that into an actual product that, I don't know, who knows, the sky is the limit, but anything is really possible with this course. So we're really excited about it. We also offer tailor-made internships, as I mentioned. So the broad purpose of an internship is to integrate the knowledge that you've been learning in order to impact the community. And also to give you some insight into what it's like to work in various different places, because a lot of you probably don't know what you want to do when you finish university. So internships are also a great way to learn what you like and what you don't like in the professional world. These internships are credit bearing, so you won't get paid for them, sadly, but you will get credit for your degree. Usually they happen during term time or during the summer break. That's up to you and the partner that you work with. And they are personally tailored to your interests. So in the first instance, you can choose an internship from one of our over 150 community partners. So when it comes to thinking about your internship, you can receive this huge book, or you can browse it online and go through this huge list of companies that are available through our office in the social sciences faculty. And each of these has one or more opportunities that you could do during your internship. And it's important to note that this offering is available to all students in social sciences, not just BASc students. So this is sort of the standard offering that we have at the university. Another option, which is specific to BASc students, is that if you see a partner that you like, so one of those from the existing list I showed you, but you don't see an opportunity with them that matches your interest, then either myself or yourself or one of my colleagues, we can approach them and say, we've got this student who would really like to work with you, but in your existing opportunities, it doesn't really match their interests. Can you create something that's unique to them? And so you might work with, for example, Amnesty International, and they may have opportunities with certain groups of people or with certain social problems, and you know that they work in another area, but you don't see an opportunity in that area. We can approach them and say, do you have something in that area for our students that you could offer them? So we can do that kind of thing. And if you don't see a partner or an opportunity that matches your interests, then we can find a new one that really suits what you're looking for. So the example that we always give here is a student of ours, Anthea, at the moment. She's really interested in understanding more about our oceans and conservation work, and also communicating to society the importance of our oceans. And so for her, we got in touch with Ocean Park and said, we have this student, she's really interested in this stuff that you do, but you don't offer internships at the moment. So could you offer something to her that's specific to her interests? And they created an opportunity just for Anthea. So we can also do that as well if there's nothing that matches your interests. So careers. Talking about careers at this point is a bit nebulous because it's only the start of your journey, and most people in life don't do anything related to the degree at all, except for academics like me. But when we talk to people out in industry, we find that actually they prefer people who've studied a diverse range of things. Even though, I've studied a very specific degree myself. I studied psychology. For the most part, when we go to industry, employers seem to say, we prefer people who've got knowledge from all over the place and can use that knowledge because that's what the real world is like. And so they prefer students from programs like ours. And so I haven't mentioned this, but our program is based on a program from University College London, from UCL. And so we worked closely with them in the development of our program. And their program's been running for 8 years. And according to them, their students have incredible success in getting basically any job that they would like, because their degree is so unique. So when they go to interview, they've had very different experiences. They've done courses related to like leadership, as we have, so they're effective communicators. And their knowledge isn't confined to one specific domain. They understand the complexity of the world. And so employers seem to really like that. So essentially, there are infinite job opportunities. I wouldn't put a limit on that, and neither should you. At this point, you are capable of doing anything, and so you should do that. You will be prepared for a number of different postgraduate programs. Some of them, as Jeff mentioned actually already, some of them might specify that you need a degree in a specific thing. So if you wanted to do clinical psychology, you may need a degree in psychology, a major in psychology. But others may be less specific about that. And it's not clear how that, I can't really advise specifically about that, although we could certainly look at it when you came here. But as I say, our students can take a second major if they want, so they can keep that option open for themselves. And also, I think it's really important to note that your future career might not exist yet. I find that a lot of young people's parents talk about the future as though it will always be the same as the past, and that the same jobs will be the jobs that are the important jobs in the future. But if you ask anybody who is sort of, older than the age of 30, whether they thought that someday, we would be sat twiddling around with our phones and, doing all kinds of things with that, they probably would have laughed at you. And those jobs are basically all of the jobs that exist now. And so you can't really anticipate what kind of jobs might exist in the future. And so from your perspective, the best thing you can do is to do a degree that just prepares you for any future. And from our perspective, studying an interdisciplinary degree is going to prepare you for that future, because none of us know what it will look like. So our degree, to summarize, equips students to act regionally and locally. You know, we are working to create sustainable solutions to local problems, campus-specific problems, but also trying to generalize that out to the real world and the globe at large. Our students are not just scientists or artists, is that what you call them? They're competent in handling all kinds of different data and forming understanding from a diverse range of topics. Our students definitely challenge conventional assumptions and integrate viewpoints from across diverse areas. And also our students are definitely supposed to become leaders in tomorrow's world. We're definitely interested in training them in that regard. So admissions. I don't really know a lot about this stuff, to be honest, but because I wasn't a student in Hong Kong. So, my colleague Abel is here to answer questions about this in case you have specific questions after I've finished. But I will note that we interview everybody. Our program is small, so we can admit 25 students and we get a lot of applications. So we have to talk to everybody that applies, just so that on the one hand, we can make sure that they're a good fit for our program, but also so that they can make sure that they're a good fit for our program. You know, you might have seen this talk or read some information online, but it really, you know, speaking one-to-one is the best way to get more information. And so we conduct interviews with everybody so that we can exchange information about one another and see if we're a good fit for each other. So you can expect that, but I hope it's apparent that I'm not very frightening, so don't worry about that. So thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, you can, well, you guys can ask them now. I'll be around for a while, though I need to get home for my baby's bath time at 6:30. And if not, you can ask them at BASc@hku.hk and we'll get back to you as quickly as possible if you would prefer to email. But other than that, thanks. Let me close this. Questions? What would I say are the challenges? Is that the first question? Yes, it is. What would I say are the challenges in taking this course? So I can tell you that the challenges that our students face mostly, so bear in mind that at the moment they're in their first year, the challenge they face is doing something that nobody's done before. You know, this is true across the world, but is true of Hong Kong perhaps more than some other places, is that if you go out on a limb and do something really different, people are like, oh, why aren't you studying a traditional degree? And so our students get a lot of questions from people about, you know, what are you doing? Like, what is that degree? And so they have to explain it to other people. And I know that they face challenges about this personally. Of course, everybody is really nice about it, and everybody's interested to know more about the degree, but nobody likes to be questioned about their choices. So one of the challenges they definitely face is in justifying to other people the choice they've made. But that's something that we work together to answer. And one of the reasons why I work so closely with students to mentor them, because actually, everybody should be asking that question of everybody. Why have you come to HKU? What is the degree you're doing? And often, you know, the degrees that you guys will choose are just a shell to hide in, because probably you don't know if you want to be a psychologist or a biologist or a mathematician or anything like that, but doing the degree makes it seem like you do. Whereas our students, they have to be upfront from the beginning about, you know, I'm exploring new knowledge and studying really different things. So that, yeah, that was a long answer. hope that answers your question. Will there be any exchange opportunities for this course? Abel has messaged me to ask if he could answer that question. You are more than welcome, Abel.
Hi, good evening. I'm Abel. I'm also working with Tom on the BASc program. So for the exchange programs, basically, if you get admitted into ConConU, you have lots of choices from a list of universities from a program called ConConU Worldwide Program. And you can, of course, enjoy the exchange opportunities as all the ConConU students enjoy. But in our Faculty of Social Sciences, we also offer another separate list of universities that you can apply for the exchange program, whether it's a semester long or a year long or just summer or during a semester break exchange programs, you can also apply for that. So as a BSc student, of course, you can definitely apply for the exchange program. And I think it's also quite common for students to enjoy the opportunities because honestly, because in ConConU, while we have a very wide range of programs, there are certainly something that are not available in ConCon. So it would be a great chance for you to learn something else from other universities. So yeah, it's definitely common to go on exchange programs. And basically, whenever you apply for exchange programs, you just basically I would say our university staff will interview you, and also you have to submit your application to the receiving institution. So yeah, basically it's common for many students in ConConU to go for exchange. Okay, so I hope I have answered your questions.
I would say also that the same applies to exchanges as kind of applies to our internships, in that, you know, the exchanges are available to all students, but because we work more closely with students than perhaps is true in other programs, we can also work with students to find opportunities that really match their interests with specific universities or in specific programs that they're interested in. And in particular, we would, of course, be really supportive of students exchanging at UCL in our sister BASc program. Okay, is that it, Abel? Should I move on to the next question?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the other things BASc, have I skipped a question? Yeah, okay. Is the BASc a major itself, or will I choose a major, minor, double major within the programs offered by BASc? So in our specific BASc, it's a major in itself. It's referred to as a major in interdisciplinary studies. This is a kind of vague title, which it's up to you to define as a student. So you can, as I said, you select the courses that make up that major. And so that would be your first major. What we do, and we've taken this lead from UCL, is that, and I would argue that other degrees should also take this direction as well, is that we urge students to not communicate in terms of their major, but communicate in terms of the courses that they're taking and their interests. So, you know, the students that I've already mentioned to you will say they major in ocean sciences and also study how to communicate that to the public through journalism and literature and that kind of thing. And so our students talk more in terms of like a PhD student would. So they talk more about their thesis, the thing they're interested in, than they do in terms of the major that they do. So just to reiterate, so you do the major in interdisciplinary studies, and then you can choose to do another major if you'd like, or minor, or to just take other electives if that's what you'd like to do. What are the other things, basically other examples of BASc degrees? So we have one student who is really interested in film and also psychology. So she is doing a degree that is about harnessing films and media in order to educate the public more about psychology and mental health, mental illness, try and improve people's understanding of that through cinema and documentary. We have another student who is interested in sustainable fashion. And so she's taking courses from sciences related to, materials, as well as courses from arts related to, the art of making clothes and things of that nature. I'm blanking on others at the moment, but they'll come to my mind later. But I should probably answer another question anyway. Okay. Would someone who is stronger in the arts or in the sciences struggle with the course content? That's a really reasonable question. So I guess the thing to note is that if you're interested in both arts and the sciences, then the course, the BASc is for you. I wouldn't necessarily think too much about your competencies, because if you're competent enough to get into the program, then you'll do just fine. And also, I would urge students to think, okay, so if you're really strong in the arts, but you'd like to be stronger in the sciences, then university is the time to acquire that new knowledge and that extra strength. So you can approach it that way as well, that you want to improve your strength in an area that you might feel is a weakness at the moment. Of course, everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I think one thing to keep in mind is that when you select courses at HKU, there is a couple of weeks period, I think it is 2 weeks, where you can try a course and see if it's really hard, or if it's too hard for you, or if you're not interested in it, or if the lecture is rubbish, or things like that. And then you can then choose to not take that course and choose another one. So there's always choice. And honestly, there are so many courses that you can take that there's more than enough options there to meet your interests and also meet your ability level.
Hi, Tom. Can I add something to the question?
Sure.
Oh, well, basically, yes, I agree with you that sometimes in university, we just need to study something differently, especially in year one. And this is what university education is about. But I think you don't have to worry that much because, I graduated from a local school, and then I studied in the Bachelor of Arts back then. Okay, there was a Bachelor of Arts and Sciences degree back when I was studying in the university. But when I studied arts courses at the very beginning, after studying sciences for years in my secondary school, at the very beginning weeks, I think, there was a pretty difficult moment for me to catch up. But afterwards, you basically would just go along with others because the year one courses at 1000 level, they are basically introductory courses. So you don't have to worry that much because they are designed for you to catch up with the basic or the elementary ideas and necessary knowledge for you to pursue further later on in year 2 and beyond. So you don't really have to worry that much if you are studying something completely differently. And I've taught some other science-related courses in other faculties before, and honestly, even for art students studying science courses or science students studying arts courses in university, I think the difference will not be that huge. Basically, everyone can catch up, so you don't have to worry that much. And I'm sure you can, especially in our program, and you are studying something that you probably have more interest in. For example, if you are interested in something, let's say psychology, then you probably can find something related to the theme that you want to study, like psychology-related science or maybe some cognitive ideas about philosophy. Probably they will help you to build a more holistic understanding of the whole issue. So that's why Tom and also every one of us in the program will also help you to build up your own program that allows you a better understanding of the bigger picture without much difficulty. So we will help you to build up your own degree in the journey.
I would reiterate that. And also, my experience of my education too was in secondary school, I assumed that I was really bad at maths and science. But it turns out that later it was just because that's the way that classes are taught in secondary school. And it's not the content itself, but it's the way that it was taught to me at secondary school. And so I always thought that I would be more on the softer side of psychology, like counseling and things like that. But when I got to university and I found my area of interest and I pursued it, I realized actually I was pretty good at statistics and some of the harder sciencey bits. And so then I did a master's degree in cognitive neuroscience. And so at your age, well, I don't know your age, but I assume you're in school. At your age, I wouldn't assume too much about your own ability based on how you're doing in school. I would really just approach things as though the sky is the limit for you. And if our degree sounds like something you might be interested in, then just try it out. You know, what have you got to lose? Okay, I have a question that's been given to me privately about whether students can transfer into our programs from other universities. That's not a question I've ever been given before, actually. And so I'm not entirely sure whether that is possible, but I would imagine it is. Abel, do you know the answer to that? Or should we follow up?
You mean from our program to other universities?
Yes, whether students can transfer into our program from other universities.
Oh, I see. Well, I think the difficulty will be, well, okay. Basically, I think you have to quit you can apply to our program first, but you will have to quit your existing program, and maybe you can apply for some like advanced standing credits so that you can take fewer credits in HKU. But I would not say that it's a kind of transfer, because basically we are different institutions, so you have to apply separately to our program. But certainly you are welcome to apply for a program and to consider whether you want to quit the existing one or not.
I would say that if this is something you're really interested in, send us an email at basc@hku.hk, and we can follow up on this together through our administrative staff, who might be able to give you some more specific information. Okay, a follow-up question. Does that mean I can major in the BASc and also BA in English / literature? So there's kind of two questions in here. Like I said, you can select one of the other majors available at HKU. That doesn't mean to say that you can graduate with a BASc and a BA. But if there is a major in, I don't know all of the majors because there's a lot of them, but if there's a major in English or literature available to you, then that's possible. You can access that major, but you would graduate with a BASc. As far as I know, right, Abel?
Yeah, well, let me add something. Yes, basically what Tom said is correct. You can do our program and then declare major in English studies. So you can just Google HKU English studies and there's such a major. But if you apply for BA, and you actually can't declare a major in interdisciplinary studies, because the major of interdisciplinary studies is unique to our BSc program. So not even other BSc program students within our family can declare a major in interdisciplinary studies. So you can do BSc and then declare a major in English studies, but not the other way around in declaring the major in interdisciplinary studies.
So thanks, Abel. And so the other question that you asked is, does the BASc offer literature courses? Because the BASc offers literature courses as well. So what would happen if you majored in, say, English studies and did the major with us, and then you had some literature courses that could fit into both majors? You have to pick which major they go into. You can't, they can't satisfy both requirements. So if you take some courses, then you would choose to either say, okay, this contributes to my BASc, my major in interdisciplinary studies, or this contributes to my major in English studies. So you have to make that decision. But I would stress, I know all of this sounds complex. These are decisions that you can make in the first year of your degree, and you're not alone when you make those decisions. So these are good questions to ask yourself, but I wouldn't worry too much about them at this stage. Why is the BASc program designed to have such a close bond between the 100 students taking the BASc? That's a good question. From my perspective, it's just because that's how degrees should be. I don't know why other programs aren't like that. So I think that in many respects, it's kind of a happy accident. We created the programs with this idea that students would take this really different and unique course in sustainable leadership, and you know, it used to be called Leadership Beyond Borders, so thinking about leadership in a global context. And when we were thinking about that course and how it fits into students' first year, we thought, actually, it would be a really good idea if we could conduct this in the first weekend of students' degrees, so that they can all get to know one another and support one another. Because that seems like a nice thing to do, that students would benefit from the support that they could get from each other, and seemed to be something that we just presumed was lacking in other degree programs. We don't have any data on that, to be honest. There isn't, you know, it's not a problem. So we didn't know, but we just assumed that students would benefit from the support they could get from each other. And that's definitely been the case. It definitely helps their studies in terms of they already know people, so they can form groups easily. But it also just helps them in terms of just staying supported in their degrees, and helping them make choices as they go through, and sharing something with other students. As I think it might have been you that asked it, what are the challenges that our students face? As I mentioned, one of the challenges our students face is that they're doing something really different. And so it's important that they have support in doing that. And so it's nice that they can be in a cohort of students who are all going through the same thing, that together they're all doing something different. And another thing that's specific to our program, which is really nice, is that we have a cohort of students who are all doing the same degree. Technically, they're all BASc students, but each of them is doing a very different degree. And so from my perspective, I wanted for them to have a close bond, because I thought it's one thing each student having diverse knowledge, but it would be really nice if they could also interact with one another and share the knowledge that they were gaining from all of these diverse areas. And I would say that if there was one trait that our students have that is common across all of the students, it's a passion for learning, and a passion for talking about what they're learning. And so they want opportunities to chat with one another about what they're doing in the degrees. And our students have a really, really close bond, so close that they have a WhatsApp group that they all talk about me in, and then they nominate a representative that then comes and tells me what they're thinking, unless I meet with them individually. So that they are, the group of students we have at the moment are really best friends because of some of this stuff we've been doing. And we don't see that in other degrees. But I would also say, I'm not sure if this was in the slides, our students have also created a BASc society, or they're in the process of creating it, so that now there's a formal structure for supporting one another. And that's led by students on my program. And on that first weekend, those students will host a high table dinner. So you'll get to meet students from across the years. And there'll be lots of events and things like that, where it won't just be your year group. You'll be meeting the whole BASc family, and you'll all be working together and getting to know one another. I think that's all of the questions.
Right, so students, any more questions for Dr. Tom Berry? All right, again, if you don't have any now, but if you have any in the future, I think Dr. Berry, they can send their questions to BASc@HKU.HK, right? Yep. Yeah, I think Dr. Berry and his staff will answer your questions. So if there are no further questions for BASc program, maybe let's thank Dr. Berry and Abel for their time today. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so the two presentations have ended. For today have ended. So time now it's for taking your questions on general application. So maybe before I start, I can briefly tell you a bit tips on making an HKU application. I think some of you may have may have applied already, but while some of you may be thinking about it, so maybe I can do a bit sharing on that. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so for current year applicants, like who are expecting to start university in the coming September, we're still accepting your application for HKU until July 15th this year. Okay, and in each HKU application, you can choose up to 5 programs, and all the 5 programs, they will review your application individually, and they will give you out offers, you know, individually, meaning that if a student is strong enough, or the requirements match with the faculty's requirements, it is possible for a student to have multiple offers, meaning a student can have 2, 3, or even 4 offers. And if you happen to be a multiple offer holder, you only have to pay 1 deposit to accept all offers. And after accepting all offers, you don't have to decide like which one to finally take until you get your final result. For example, if you're IB applicant, then you can accept all offers before the IB result releases, and confirm like which program to take, like after you get your IB score. And a lot of students are concerned of scholarship, and here in HKU, it's pretty convenient. You don't have to make a separate application for scholarship. When you submit your HKU application, you'll be considered for scholarship at the same time. And if you are entitled to any scholarship, I mean, you're entitled to our entrance scholarship, then you'll be informed together with your offer admission. You will read it on your offer letter. Okay. And another reminder. Another reminder is a lot of students, they may have questions on the scores, the subject requirements for programs. So here I want to like introduce you guys to our International Undergraduate Admissions website. So when you land on this website, you can press the red button here, admissions. Okay, and you can track it down to admission standards. And here you will see, you'll find the scores, the lower expected boundary that we're looking for each program. Okay, for example, if you're taking the IB, you click here. Yeah, and just leave that here. It will show you the lowest score that we're looking for, and you should bear in mind that these score they are just, you know, the lower boundary. So if you want to be safe, then you should like expect to achieve a few score higher than, you know, the score here. But anyway, yeah, here you can find the expected score. And also, because for some programs, for example, well, for today's programs, there aren't very specific subject requirements. As you can see, there aren't specific subject requirements. But in case you're also thinking of other programs, for example, business, then you can read it here, like what grade and what subjects you're expected to have in your qualification. Yeah, I think it's a good page for you to navigate. Okay. And again, if you have any questions, you can contact us anytime. You can just press this button here and submit your question here, and then we will reply you through email. Okay, so I think that's what I want to share to you guys, and I'm open to questions now. Please feel free to speak up, or you can type in your chat box. Depending on the number of questions, I think I will stay for maybe 5 more minutes. So if you have any questions for applications, you're welcome to ask. You're welcome to ask, questions on other HKU programs as well. Not limited to only the two mentioned. Okay, so I don't see any questions coming through the chat box. So let me just post the link where you can contact us, and just when you have you have questions, just contact us through this link. All right. So I'll end the session today. Thanks again for joining. Thank you.